Pirates are mired in myth and legend, making it hard to tell fact from fiction. Scottish privateer turned pirate Captain William Kidd was one such figure. He was killed in 1701 at the comparatively early age of 47. Captain William Kidd is still widely believed to have buried his wealth, which has contributed to his romanticization as one of the most legendary pirates of all time. As a result, many people in the modern era have gone on treasure hunts around Asia, the coasts of Africa, and the Americas, all in the hopes of finding silver bars that were reportedly Kidd's. No loot has yet been linked to the infamous privateer, yet his legacy lives on in adoration around the globe. Despite his adventurous life at sea, Captain William Kidd met a particularly brutal end, not unexpectedly at the hands of the government. We will take a quick look at William Kidd's life today before diving into his terrible death, which some viewers could find unsettling. Be very careful as we re-enter the perilous golden age of piracy to investigate William Kidd's execution. Little is known about William Kidd's childhood and early years, as is typical of the lives of most infamous Golden Age privateers and pirates. Based on their research, historians have determined that he was born in Dundee, Scotland, prior to October 1654. From an early age, he was baptized into a religious society, and his father was rumored to have served as a preacher in the Church of Scotland. William Kidd came to the Americas in his early 20s and settled in New York City, shortly after it had been taken from the Dutch by the English. He kept up cordial contacts with New York's naval officers and officials, while he allegedly secured a position as an apprentice sailor aboard a pirate ship. Kidd began and concluded his career as a Caribbean pirate, although he was mostly regarded as a privateer for most of his career. Although he eventually became a captain, he began his sailing career in the late 1680s as a member of Jean Fontaine's crew. As time went on, William Kidd's opportunity to climb the ranks presented itself during a mutiny on Fantin's ship. It is believed that Kidd orchestrated a revolt against the captain, leading to his removal from the ship and their subsequent acquisition of it. Following this event, the ship underwent an official rechristening, Blessed William, and Kidd was chosen to be the captain. Nevis was a British Caribbean territory, and Kidd soon found himself collaborating with its ruler, Christopher Codrington. After Kidd fought alongside Codrington's fleet against the French, the governor gave the privateers orders to steal from the French colonies for their pay. As a result, Kidd and his men grabbed anything they could during their raids and looting. Richard Coote, the first Earl of Bellamont and governor of New Hampshire, hired Kidd to actively pursue pirates once he solidified his reputation as a terrifying and accomplished privateer. The likes of John Ireland, William May, and Thomas Wake were among his targets, as were enemy French ships that posed a threat to British forces in the Caribbean. Kidd should have known better than to turn down the offer. Refusing this offer would amount to rejecting an offer from the British Crown, effectively turning Kidd into an enemy. The bulk of the expedition's funding came from England's noble lords, and King William III officially appointed Kidd as a privateer. Kidd appointed his crew and set out on the Adventure Galley, his new vessel. The journey was unsuccessful. By September 1696, cholera had killed 1/3 of Kidd's crew, and things didn't get better when the ship leaked multiple times. Furthermore, Kidd was once again circling the shores of Madagascar, but this time, he still hadn't spotted the pirates he was after. Despite Kidd's best efforts, the morale on board the ship remained low due to the constant mutiny threats leveled against him. Kidd killed one of his own crewmen on October 30th, 1697, due to his intense rage. A Dutch ship materialized on the horizon as fellow privateer gunner William Moore was honing his skills. Kidd declined Moore's insistence that he command his crew to assault it. The absence of war between England and the Netherlands meant that pirates, not privateers, would be responsible for any assault on the ship. After some time of insults, Kidd reached for an iron-bound bucket and slammed it over Moore's head. He died after a whole day. The escaped captives of Kidd started making allegations of violence as his expedition went downhill. As far as anyone can tell, Kidd did, in fact, subject the captives he acquired on his journey to torture. The accounts of the escapees, who described being brutally attacked with cutlasses and beaten, formed a horrific picture of Kidd in the eyes of the law. Following Kidd's official declaration as a pirate by the Royal Navy, he became a sought man. Even when he beheaded French ships and kept the loot for himself instead of returning it to the crown, his prestige remained unchanged. In the end, Kidd was successful in capturing one of his bounties, the infamous English marauder Robert Culliford, a pirate from Cornwall. We don't know what happened after that, but Culliford made it through. Kidd either approached Culliford serenely and offered him a drink, or more likely, gave the order for his crew to attack the enemy captain. But they were unsuccessful. Instead of attacking Culliford, his crew allegedly threatened their own leader. Eventually, the majority of Kidd's men departed from him in search of a more favorable situation aboard Culliford's vessel, as is commonly acknowledged. After spending some time back at sea with Kidd, 13 of them eventually made it back to their homes in North America in 1698. Kidd was singled out when the Act of Grace was issued by the English crown, offering a pardon to all pirates in the Indian Ocean, provided they ceased their activities. He was perpetually on the run and never could get a pardon. In their quest to find him, the English crown dispatched battleships that were among the most technologically sophisticated and formidable naval vessels of their day. Because of his wanted status and the presence of his mutinous crewmates in New York City, Kidd sold his valuables and abandoned his ship in the Caribbean Sea. He avoided the city. Ironically, Richard Coote was the one who brought Kidd in for questioning, and ultimately led to his arrest and trial. Coote had Kidd brought to Boston in the hopes of a pardon, but upon his arrival at the port, he was apprehended and transported to the Boston prison, where he was held in solitary imprisonment. Particularly painful were Kidd's last years, because his conditions were considered by professional standards to have momentarily driven him insane. He was allowed very little interaction with the outside world and other inmates while he was in prison. Aside from luring in his supporters, the incarcerated pirate served as a deterrent to other would-be criminals. The High Court of Admiralty heard Kidd's case after he refused to provide any names to the authorities. The murder of Kidd's former crewmate, William Moore, and charges of high seas piracy led to his extradition to London. While in London, Kidd was housed in Newgate Prison, widely regarded as one of England's most infamous institutions. Kidd was unaware of the murder charge against him until the trial started. He couldn't believe they were going to put him on trial for this, a felony that, if found guilty, would guarantee his execution. 5 counts of high seas piracy and 1 act of murder were finally judged guilty of Kidd. He received the death penalty. William Kidd's final destination on May 23, 1701, was Execution Dock, the renowned spot where numerous prominent Golden Age pirates met their demise. Seated in a horse-drawn carriage that limped through the streets of London towards the docks, Kidd was hanged alongside 2 Frenchmen. Huge numbers of people congregated around the gallows in anticipation of the execution. The 2 Frenchmen, along with Kidd, were to be beheaded for their transgressions. As the sun dipped below the horizon and the tide receded, Kidd was led to the scaffold and delivered a speech to the assembled mourners around 5 o'clock in the evening. By sharing his story, he hoped to dissuade other would-be pirates from following in his footsteps. The executioner hung Kidd from the noose and pulled the cord to hang him. As soon as it dipped, the rope broke. A botched execution had befallen Kidd. The noose was still snaking around his neck as he collapsed to the floor, spluttering and wheezing. Again, he was given his last rites, this time in a state of bewilderment and shock rather than death. A fresh noose was fastened to the gallows by the executioner, who then encircled Kidd's neck with it. The fate of Kidd's remains at Tilbury Point is shrouded in mystery. Rumor has it that Kidd's body was thrown into the Thames when it was time to hang the next corpse, and that's where it remains to this day. Even if he was laid to rest, nobody knows where. Here, then, is the gruesome tale of Captain William Kidd, one of the most infamous but ultimately unsuccessful pirates, and his even grislier demise at the hands of the law. Kidd's demise is eerily similar to that of numerous notorious Golden Age pirates. Even fewer of the most infamous managed to escape unscathed with their fortunes. Kidd's passing may evoke a deeper sense of sorrow. It seemed inevitable that he would perish on his privateering mission. This was bound to happen anyhow due to all the factors: his defective ship, his mutinous crew, and his exclusion from the amnesty. There is still a lot we don't know about Kidd's life and death. Even with all the information in this video, maybe more about this long-lost pirate's life and times will be unearthed in the future through historical discoveries. We appreciate you taking the time to watch this Reality Threads video. Hopefully you're finding these videos useful. If so, please subscribe. I'll be back soon with another video.